Please purchase a personal license to remove this message. The sun hung low and swollen, a dull orange eye sinking into the scarred horizon. Its final light bled slowly into oblivion, staining the cultivated fields in hues of tarnished copper and dried blood. Corn stalks stood rigid like rusted spears, squash leaves dragged long, warped shadows across the soil. The air held the day's leftover warmth like a lie, while a grave cold chill crept in underneath, patient and certain. John reined in at the edge of the fields. This was no ragged camp, no half-starved congregation clinging to promises. This was a settlement carved out of wilderness with fanatic devotion. Acre upon acre of corn, beans, and squash stretched before them, fed by irrigation ditches cut straight and purposeful, like bayonet wounds in the earth. This kind of abundance took years planning, discipline, bodies enough to sustain it. At the center of it all stood the compound. It rose from the flatland like a rotten tooth forced through healthy gum. The fortress was built in the old pre-Civil War style, thick log walls stacked tight, seams packed with dried mud and straw, cracked but stubbornly solid. Corner towers rose 2 stories high, their platforms bare, ladders still leaning where hands had last climbed them. Narrow firing slits cut the walls black, watchful mouths. Whoever built this place had expected siege, not salvation. John felt his gut tighten. It was wrong. The scale of it. 3 times the size of Palestine, sitting far from rail or river, with no reason to exist except faith weaponized by a man who knew how to sell heaven to the desperate and the damned. Jack's gaze flicked constantly tower to tower, wall to field, his usual composure thinning. There should be more than 1,000 people here, he said quietly. He was right. The silence was unnatural. No evening prayer, no shouted orders, no clatter of supper plates. No children's laughter bleeding into dusk. Only wind sliding through corn tassels and the distant, mindless cluck of chickens left unattended. John nudged his horse forward. The hooves sounded too loud on the packed dirt road. Cabins lined the approach, neat, functional, lived in. Chickens pecked at bare ground near a cabin painted a cheerful red that had long since faded. In a vegetable patch, a scarecrow stood watch, wearing a weathered duster and a bullet-pocked hat. They didn't stop. The fortress gates waited. Massive slabs of hewn timber banded with black iron, they stood wide open, not smashed, not breached. Open by design. They swayed slightly on their hinges, groaning softly, as if breathing. No guards. No challenge. Just a mouth. John dismounted. Jack followed, moving with controlled silence. Their boots crunched on gravel, the sound obscene in the stillness. There were over 1,000 souls here, Jack murmured. It was never quiet. Not like this. John breathed in. Under the smells of dirt, livestock, and old smoke was something else, sweet, cloying, threaded with sharp metal. A smell he knew well. The scent that lingered after slaughter, once the heat had time to settle. He stepped through the gate. I know, he said. The square opened before them. At first, his mind refused to accept it. It broke the scene into fragments, blankets laid out. People lying down to rest. Hands folded neatly. Faces calm, too calm. Then the pattern asserted itself. Rows. Dozens. Then hundreds. Men laid out on one side, women on the other, arranged with ceremonial care. Some held hands. Mothers cradled infants against silent chests. Tin cups rested near relaxed fingers. Faces bore expressions of peace, even contentment, as if they had been sung to sleep. No blood. No struggle. Just surrender. John's breath stuttered. The ache in his chest, the ghost of Mara's claws, throbbed in time with his pulse. Sweet Jesus, he whispered. Jack walked among them like a man in a mausoleum. Poison, he said hollowly. The moment he knew Mara was dead, he gave them the sacrament. At the far end of the square lay an overturned oak vat. Dark, syrup-thick residue soaked into the dirt beneath it. Paper cups were scattered everywhere, some still holding black dregs. John knelt beside a young man, barely more than a boy. He closed the dead eyes with 2 fingers. Then Jack stopped. John. Near the preacher's platform lay the enforcers. Armed men. Cartridge belts and rifles still slung. They had not been laid out neatly. They lay collapsed, twisted where they had fallen. Their faces were not peaceful. They wore confusion. Betrayal. The dawning realization that obedience had not spared them. John stood slowly. Fury crystallized in his veins. They were dead before we ever saw the place. Jack nodded. He kept control to the end. Even over them. This was the only ending where he remained their god. The wind stirred the square, lifting hair, shifting blankets. For one awful moment, the dead seemed to sigh. Jack's gaze swept the bodies again. His face changed. John, he said tightly. Look at their ages. John did. Men from 16 to 60. Women young and old. Infants in arms. But no children. No toddlers. No boys or girls between 3 and 15. A missing generation. The children, John said. Where are the children? A sound answered him. Not from the compound. From beyond the western wall. A sharp crack, a small caliber report. Then a scream. High, thin, and terrified. A child's scream. It ended abruptly. John and Jack moved together. Colt and blade were in their hands before thought could intervene. They ran, boots pounding past the rows of the peacefully dead, toward the fields beyond the wall. As they crossed the gate's shadow, the sun finally vanished. Darkness took the land whole. And whatever mercy remained with it.